is Dianne Blick, and welcome to Essentials with Dianne. This is a program that our team is designed to inform buyers and sellers and make you the savviest in town so that you're winning the deals that you want to win. What we're doing is inviting professionals who are involved in the real estate transaction to come in and share with us and you the things that are important to know about what they do in their jobs to support your goals. And today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Mitch Harris with Harris Home Inspections. Mitch is a home inspector living here in Hutchinson, working the entire South Central Kansas area, right,
Yes.
Mitch?
Yes.
And so let's just start with, how long have you been a home inspector?
I've been a home inspector about 15 years and started part-time. In the last 6 years, I've been full-time home inspector.
Wow. And so what do you love most about what you do?
You know, I'm fascinated, have always been fascinated with buildings and how they function together in the entire envelope of the building. And so I just, every day is a little bit different because I like to make myself familiar with the property, and I enjoy the people and educating people on how their property operates.
I especially appreciate that about how you communicate with my buyers or sellers when you're working for them, and are open to explaining things to them that they might not understand. So I really do appreciate that. I have a question about your certifications. What qualifies you to be a home inspector?
I'm a certified master inspector with the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors, and they've got criteria you have to meet to be a certified professional inspector, and then it just augments if you want to be a certified master inspector. They have minimum standards of practice that you have to meet, and then returning education credits that you have to.
So you do have returning continuing education?
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. So, but there's no requirement in Kansas to have a license to be inspector. So you've taught me so much over the years. Well, I couldn't because I don't know enough, but anybody could hang a shingle and say they're an inspector.
That's correct. There's currently no licensing required for home inspectors in Kansas.
Yeah, so it's pretty important as buyers and sellers to know what your home inspector certifications are, and you get to choose your home inspector. So typically when you start to do a home inspection, it is a real estate transaction, typically, and the home buyer gets to choose who does their home inspection. And so the realtor will provide a short list of recommended names that the home buyer can then choose from. And so they select a home inspector. And so you then have a contract with who and how are you compensated?
We have a pre-inspection agreement signed by the buyer that outlines the scope of the inspection and what it entails, and then the report belongs to them. They can share it with whoever they want to. We only share it with who they tell us to, typically themselves and their real estate representative.
We'll talk a little bit more about what the report looks like and how it comes, but so a home inspection from a very high level, what does it entail?
The home inspection is going to give you an accurate description of the present condition of the property that you're looking to buy. And we're going to be on the roof and under the house, and it's a non-invasive inspection, so we don't get inside walls, but we take the covers off of electric panels, furnaces, and that type of thing, and function test everything and determine that they're functioning like they're intended to.
So how could a homeowner best prepare to have you come in to do the home inspection? What would you anticipate?
You know, making things accessible for us is really important. We need to get in crawl spaces and attics, so if you've got things stored in front of those openings, that's good. And then we want to, with an occupied home, we want to be able to access as many of our electrical openings as are possible.
Mm-hmm. So let's look at, you brought some of the tools of the trade, some of the things that you use to do a home inspection. Could we look at a few of those and share with us what tools you use to do that in home inspection?
Sure. You know, really, lights and screwdrivers are a big part of it, but then we test every accessible receptacle that we can, and typically as an inspector, most inspectors will use a really inexpensive tester that any homeowner really could own, and they'll give you a good idea if a receptacle is wired properly, and then if it gives you an indication it's not, we like to plug in a circuit analyzer to it, and it costs about 50 times more than this one that everyone could own. And it usually confirms that this one was right. So it's kind of one of those things. So once in a while you have some tools that maybe you're overkill for the process. Same thing with, we use gas leak detectors when we're doing an inspection. A homeowner could use a spray bottle with some dish soap in it and spray it on gas fittings and stuff, and it'll bubble and give you that same thing. This is going to check parts per million, and it's a little cleaner than spray bottles, so this is what we use.
So I have a question about this tool. It makes a really nice clickety-click noise when it's working. You don't have to turn it on for me, but so where do you use that to test? Like this property has a gas stove. Would you be checking connections there?
We test every available connection in the gas system, our valves, our fittings. With a gas range, we check the hookup behind the gas as well as inside where the gas lines connect to the burners. And in our mechanical room, every gas fitting we can find just to make sure we don't have any gas leaks.
And you take tons of pictures too. Your reports are significant. I feel like they're well written in plain English so everybody can understand them. So let's talk about the report. Tell us what you provide for your customer.
Well, once again, our report's going to be an accurate description of the present condition of the property. We like to include photos in our report. A few of them are reference photos so that when we're talking about this bathroom, there's a picture of that bathroom. Same thing when we're on the roof. There's pictures of the roofs, and if we see a defect in the shingles, there's a close-up picture of that. Same thing with your attics and stuff. Anything that's a defect, we want to have a photograph in there so that it's a reference point for you. Same thing with, with concrete. Every good concrete person will tell you that it's going to get hard and it's going to crack. We like to have some reference photos for you of cracks in your driveway, garage floors and stuff, just so that if sometime it catches your attention and you think, oh my gosh, that's getting worse, you can look and say, no, it's the same way it was 2 years ago when I bought my property.
Those are really helpful. The other thing that you do, you have a great book that you provide the homeowner. And well, you tell everybody why it's of great value. I know why it's of great value, but explain to our audience why that is.
This is a book it's a home maintenance book manual that I like to give to every home buyer. And if you own a property, you should own this book, whether you're a sophisticated investor or a first-time home buyer. And it explains all the components of your home and how they work together. It helps you maintain your investment because for most of us, a property is an investment.
It is, and I think this is a really nice publication. A lot of times after the deal is done and a homeowner will call me because I help them buy the house, I will refer them back to that book for how to learn about something that's in the house or to your home inspection, because you also put notes in your home inspection that reminds people that seasonally there are certain things that they need to do.
Yes.
Yeah. So in real estate, while all professionals who are licensed or certified are working during a real estate transaction, we all hold a fiduciary responsibility to someone. And in this case, when you're doing a home inspection, your responsibility is to
provide them with, like I said, an accurate description of the present condition of the property. And our reports will identify safety items that could be a personal concern to them, as well as maintenance items that, if left untaken care of, will result in adversely affecting the value of the property. So our reports have a summary page at the beginning of the report that outlines the things that I think are the most important to me. We encourage you to read your entire inspection report because it's going to be filled with maintenance items through there, and something that I didn't think was a big deal, you may. Right. And you can just kind of prioritize things the way you want.
So yeah, that brings us to a really important point that I'd like to take a minute and explain to our audience. So you are hired to do the inspection, you do the inspection, you provide the report to the buyer, if it's the buyer hiring you, if it's a pre-sale inspection, Then it's provided to the homeowner, the seller, who is doing it because they may want to make some repairs before, or they just want to know that they're going to have a clean report. And so after all of that happens, typically the next morning, in the case of Harris Home Inspections, Mitch would provide an overnight written report first thing in the morning that's fully detailed. And they're like, with pictures, they're 60, 70 pages long sometimes. Sometimes they're only 50, but generally they're pretty detailed. And then what happens next is that the person who hired Mitch and who I'm working with and I would have a conversation after they've had a chance to review the report and determine what's important to them. Because the next step is that the buyer would then be preparing an inspection amendment requesting, as per terms of the contract that they're under, repairs to be made. And so we would articulate those carefully in writing, requesting that licensed professionals further evaluate or make repairs. That would be given to the other party's real estate agent for discussion with them. So that's how that all kind of flows through and turns about. And then once that's agreed to, we would commence with making repairs that are agreed upon prior to closing. So just quickly, what are like some of the most typical repairs, necessary repairs that you find?
Probably the electrical system has a tendency to have most of the repairs that are needed, and typically we try to provide a good list for whoever your electrician is, so that they have an idea what equipment they're going to be working on and what they're going to do when they get there. Probably one of the biggest concerns for a property is moisture where we don't want it, whether it's moisture intrusion from the outside, or if we've got leaks in our drain, waste, and vent system or our water supply system. And that's why we use moisture detectors in a lot of areas when we're inspecting a home. I use 2 to 3. I have pin moisture meters, I have non-contact moisture meters, and an infrared camera. Basically, they help. If one tells me I've got an issue, I look at it with, say, my pin meter says I've got moisture somewhere I shouldn't. I look at it with my infrared camera. A lot of times that infrared image will show exactly where our moisture is. Makes it a lot easier to make repairs, but ultimately the electrical seems to be a large part of the safety part of an inspection, and then moisture is a large part of the maintenance part of an inspection.
I would agree. That's what I see most on all home inspection reports. So typically at this time of our talk, I always stop and ask, what have I not asked you that I should, or ask you to tell me a funny story about things that happen? And boy, I know you've had some funny stories, but actually what I'd like to do today is just acknowledge something that you've been working on the last few days. You normally have a clean-shaven face, and you've been an extra in a movie, I understand. Tell us about that. It's pretty exciting.
My wife and I had a chance to be extras in a made-for-TV series about The Chosen. It's a story of the gospel that goes into in-depth detail about the different characters in the Bible. And this week they were filming Sermon on the Mount, so they needed a couple thousand extras, and we had an opportunity to be involved in that, and that's why I look scruffy like I do. I haven't shaved for 3 weeks, but it was a wonderful time, and would really encourage anyone that's got questions about the gospel to download the Chosen app. It's free. Season 1's completely free, and watch it.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think it sounded like a fascinating story. And as I told you before, now that I've seen you in your what century was that? It was
during the time of Christ.
Yeah. Now that I've seen you in that attire, I'll never quite look at you as an inspector quite the same again, maybe more respect. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all the care that you take of my buyers and sellers. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
And so you can find how to reach Mitch on the next frame of this video. And I know that he'd be glad to answer your questions, as would I. Thanks for checking in with Essentials with Dianne. We'll be in touch. Have a great day.